Okay, I want to show you how easy it is to brew your own beer. I've been brewing since Christmas, well just after Christmas. Somebody bought me a kit for Christmas with some equipment, and I've had really good results. I've done probably about 3 or 4 brews now, I think, and all of them have been really good. Been very impressed. I've watched a lot of videos online on YouTube, read a lot of information on various websites, so I wanted to start giving a bit back now. So I thought, you know, I've learned a little bit over that amount of time. Why don't I do a video? So basically I'm going to go through everything you need to know about very basic brewing. This is the basic brewing from kits, from liquid malt extract kits, such as this one. This is just one example, one manufacturer that I've tried before. They were very good. I've also tried a Young's Definitive Lager and 2 Geordie kits. I've tried a Geordie Lager kit and a Geordie Bitter kit. All of those have been great, I've got to be honest. They range in price. These ones are typically £12, around £12, sorry. The Geordie ones are a little bit cheaper, so around £9. The Young's one's even cheaper than that, probably around £7 or £8. All of them make 40 pints. This one's got slightly more malt extract in it, I think 1.8 kilos rather than the others, which have got 1.6, so I guess in theory it should make for a slightly better brew, but I've got to be honest, I've not noticed any massive difference, other than it's a different taste really. But they're all good in their own right, you know, so I guess you know, you get what you pay for. You can pay whatever you want to pay really. I paid £2 for this one, incidentally. I bought it from Wilkinson's, and it's reduced. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it as far as I'm aware. I mean, it's in a tin anyway, so it's going to be sealed. The only problem with the kit was that the yeast was missing. Now, I basically bought a yeast sachet from my local homebrew store, 99p. So I bought this kit for £3. Should have been £12. As I say, still in date, June 2012. Should be fine. Well, we'll brew it and we'll find out. Okay, so you need that. You need that kit, and they say that would typically come with a yeast, so you wouldn't need to buy one. Some people online say to buy a separate yeast because, especially with the lager kits, tend to be an ale yeast anyway, rather than a lager yeast. But it's up to you to do your own research. I've always used the one from the kits, and it's tasted fine to me. Yeah, fine. It probably, you know, isn't really that much like lager, but it does taste a bit like lager, and it tastes nice. You know, that's the main thing. It tastes nice. It's nice beer. So fair enough. I'm one of those people who drinks any type of beer anyway. Really, probably prefer lager, but I will drink ales. I'll drink bitters. I'll pretty much drink anything as long as it tastes okay. Not so much of a fan of the cheaper lagers like Carlin and stuff like that, but yeah, I'll drink anything really. Okay, so you need this. There are other options as far as kits are concerned. You can buy a partial kit, which will have probably something like this, but in a bladder, and with all the grains and everything as well. And then basically you've got to boil it all up and get all of the flavour out of the grains and what have you, and then use that as you brew. Now the beauty of these is that all of that process is done for you, so they've got all of that in the factory, and they've cooked it all up for you if you like, and they've produced this concentrated liquid which you then use to brew. There's some people online who are quite religious about the fact that they don't use those kits. They'll stick to like all grain and partial extract brewing or whatever, and say they get better results. I've not tried it, so I can't really comment, but I suggest you go out there and make your own decision. You know, give it a go. And, you know, I'm not sure what's best, so let me know. Post on my site. Okay, so what else are you going to need? Another key item is some kind of sanitising solution. It's really important, and this is you'll see online a lot, and it'll also be the instructions for your kit. It's really important that you clean and sanitise all of the equipment that you use really well. Also important that if you use a sanitizer such as this one, you wash it off afterwards. Some of them you don't have to, it'll say in the instructions, but if you do have to, make sure you do, because if you leave it on there it might kill your yeast, or it might stay in your brew, and then your brew's just going to taste like whatever the sanitising solution base is. So in this case probably chlorine, and you don't really want something that tastes like bleach. Just coming back to that, some people online do say that you can use household bleach as well, non-scented, obviously, because you wouldn't want the scent of roses or whatever to go into, or strawberries or something to go into your brew. Well, I wouldn't have thought you would anyway. Yeah, have a look at that. I've not tried it myself, but in theory I guess it might be a cheaper option. But I mean, these are fairly cheap, they're £1.75, and you know, this lasts me a good couple of 3 brews, something like that. So that's great. Okay. Another thing you're going to need is a hydrometer. Now, what a hydrometer allows you to do is measure the amount of liquid that you have in your, the amount of sugar that you have in your liquid solution. So this basically allows you to take a reading before you start your fermentation process, and also afterwards, therefore to judge the difference and therefore the amount of sugar that the yeast has eaten and turned to alcohol. And that therefore allows you to get an approximate reading of the amount of alcohol you've got in your beer or your wine or your cider. So these are really good. I would recommend you get one. They're about £3, round about. For £3, you know, I'd just go and get one personally. You know, some people online don't use them. You know, it doesn't necessarily say in the instructions that you have to use one in a lot of instructions, but I've had one from the start. I found it really useful. There's loads of tutorials on how to use these things, so I'm not going to necessarily go into it in detail. We'll look at this a little bit later on in one of the later films when we take the before reading and after readings, but I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. There's loads of stuff out there. Craig Cheap, excellent, really good video he did on hydrometer, so have a look at that. Beer kit enhancer. So this is basically the sugars that the yeast is going to eat, and it's going to turn it into alcohol, which is going to obviously put alcohol into our brew, into our beer. This particular enhancer is 500 grams of dried malt extract and 500 grams of glucose. Bought this from my local homebrew store, DJ Supplies in Rednall. I think that was about £3. So obviously it's more expensive than sugar you buy at the supermarket, but apparently you'll get much better results. I've never used this yet, so this is new to me. I've always used sugar that you buy from the supermarket, but if you read online, I'm told that you know, you're going to get much better results. So I guess we'll see with this brew. Now I've also got an extra bag of glucose here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half of this in the brew as well. So I'll actually end up with a kilo of glucose and a kilo of dried malt extract, which will give it a slightly higher percentage of alcohol when it finishes. And a couple of final things that I've got here that are really important. This is a device called an airlock, very simple device. What it basically does is it will allow gas to escape during the fermentation process out of your fermentation vessel, but it won't allow gases or any other things to get into your beer and therefore contaminate it. So it's really good. Again, these are cheap. They pack of £2. Local homebrew stores sell them. I bought these from Wilco's. You can buy them online. There's loads of websites online where you can buy them. eBay, people sell them on eBay. So basically, what you do, and I'll show you later, is you put this into the top of your fermentation vessel, so that the bung pushes onto the bottom like this, and then just move this over slightly. And then this just pushes into the top like so. So this just pushes into here, and then it basically it's all sealed off, so nothing can get in, which is what you want. These are about £13. This will brew, I normally brew up to here, which is about 23 litres, but I guess you could go higher if you want. Be a bit careful about how high you go, because of, I guess, the yeast fermenting and it producing the krausen on the top, and the early fermentation process might start getting out and coming through your airlock and things. There's loads of videos you see online of people who have had situations like that, so that's very interesting. Not necessarily a problem, apparently a good sign, but very interesting stuff. I've not had it myself, but maybe that's because I've been brewing with sugar rather than this stuff, so this one might be a bit more interesting, but we'll see. Okay, so that's pretty much it really. Those are the things you need, basic things you need to make beer really. Obviously you need a spoon as well, which is one thing I don't have here. I tend to just use a stainless steel spoon, but you know, you can buy real proper paddles that are specifically for homebrew that are obviously got sort of notches in the top, and you can swirl the wort around with. But I've always used stainless steel, either a fish slice or a spoon, and I've had great results. The key thing is just to make sure that, you know, they're sanitised and then swirled off, just so as everything else. Okay, so let's go and get brewing. Okay, so we're on to the second stage of the brewing process now. So as you can see, I've got all of my equipment, all of my stuff in the sterilising solution. This is what I was talking about. I use a fish slice. I tend to prefer to use this one, which is completely stainless steel with no sort of special handle on it, because the way I see, like, the more grooves and things you've got like this here, the more chance you've got of getting bacteria in there. So just some things that are flatter are probably better, but you know, I'm not a scientist. So I've got my hydrometer in there, try and get that all in the liquid. This is the other thing which I didn't mention in the previous video, is a measuring jug. Don't worry like that much about the preciseness of the measurements. Doesn't really make that much difference at the start. The key thing is that you get the right amount of liquid in the brew after you finish putting after you've made up the wort and what have you, with what you top it up with, and that's fairly easy to judge anyway, because you can use the measurement on the side of the actual fermenting vessel. Okay, so that's that. Got my fermenting vessel there, so that's all sterilised now, and I've washed it out, so you can see inside there it's all clean. Another little tip that I've sort of picked up, the way to tell if you've washed all of your solution out of your fermenting vessel or anything else is basically give it a sniff. You know, if you can still smell what smells like cleaner or chlorine or anything such like that, then obviously you need to swill it more. So carry on swilling it until it just smells clean. So it just smells kind of very neutral now. So that's what I'm looking for. Got my beer kit enhancer and my glucose there that we talked about. Got my yeast ready to go. I've got a homebrew that I brewed previously. That was the Young's one that I was talking about. So that's another vital thing that you need to have while you're doing some homebrewing. And now let's move on to what we've got on the stove now. So in this first stove, basically I've got some hot water in a pan. Now this has sort of just come up to well, not actually boiling, it's just warm really. It's just enough to heat up the liquid inside, and as you can see I can still touch that. It's not that hot. I mean, do be careful if you do touch it after it's been in there for a while, because it can tend to get pretty hot, that, and certainly on the bottom it will be. So I'll probably use a tea towel, which I've got one over this side. I've got another one here as well that I can use, but incidentally both of those are clean out of the cupboard. Which, you know, just precautionary really, make sure everything's really clean. As you can see, I've actually taken the top off here as well, so I've been round it with a tin opener, and you can see inside the tin. I always have a good sniff of this. I think it smells really nice. If ever you've had Horlicks, it just smells like Horlicks really to me. Don't know, you might think it smells like something different. I mean, it doesn't really smell like beer, but you wouldn't really expect it to at this stage. So that's all ready to go really now, so that's nice and warm. Another thing I did, which I picked up as a tip, is when I put the can in the water, obviously peeled off the label just to reduce the possibility of you know, again, things getting contaminated, although obviously we won't use this water. This is purely just to heat up the malt extract inside to make it easier to get out of the can. Another tip, just going to come to is put the can in upside down. So obviously generally in the store the can is going to have been rested on the shelf the right way up, so all of this sticky stuff's going to stick to the bottom. So turn it the other way around, take the bottom of the can off, and then pour the liquid out from that side rather than the other side. That way you're going to ensure that you get as much of the malt extract as you can, because obviously that's the good stuff that you want in there. That's the stuff that's going to make your beer, so the more of that you can get in there, generally speaking, the better brew you're going to get. Okay, so moving on to this is the last thing that I've got. Now this is basically 3.5 litres of boiled water. So this is what I'm going to use as really just to start off as the basis for the brew. And in here basically now I'm going to just put that down a minute. I'm going to add my beer enhancer kit. So I'm going to tip all of this into there. It doesn't say to do this in the instructions. In the instructions it says to put this stuff, the malt extract, into the fermenting vessel first, and then add these sugars in afterwards. Now I prefer to do it this way because a couple of reasons. First of all, you'll find that it will dissolve better into the hot liquid than it will into the fermenting vessel, into the malt extract when it's in there. And secondly, you're going to boil it, which will obviously help to sterilise it. So put that in there. Just get rid of that over there in a minute. I'm just going to get my spoon here and rinse that off because I don't want any of that sterilising solution to go in there. Then we can give this a stir and get it all mixed together. So I'm just going to make sure that that's all nicely dissolved into the water. So basically, so that I've got my sugar solution, so I've got half and half of the glucose and the dried malt extract in there. I think what I mentioned earlier, what I'm going to do with this brew is I'm going to put a little bit of extra glucose in there as well, basically just to spice it up a bit, just a bit of extra alcohol content, because I want a really good brew. I like my beers quite strong. I want to get it somewhere around the 5% mark, so I'm looking at a starting gravity probably of about 1.045, which I'll probably need a little bit more sugar for. So just mix that in first of all, and then we'll get the glucose. Okay, so I've got my glucose now. I'm going to tip about half a bag of this in there as well, and then stir that up too. So a little bit, maybe a little bit more. It's probably about right. What I can do, I can always add a little bit extra just before I put the yeast in after I've taken a reading, but I prefer to get as much in now as I can. That way, just make sure that it's all mixed well into the solution. So just carry on, just mixing this up until I can tell that it's all mixed into the liquid. It smells great, by the way. Absolutely smells wonderful. Like I say, to me it smells very much like a hot mug of Horlicks. Okay, so I'm going to carry on mixing this for a bit, side back up my glucose, and then we'll move on to actually making the wort up. Okay, so I've stirred this up nice now, and the malt extract and the glucose have nicely dissolved into the solution. So I've also taken my my kit tin out of the water now, and I've just put it on the side. I had to use a tea towel in the end because it is a bit hot. So I'm just going to get rid of this too. This can go. A little bit awkward. So just get that over there. A little sticky on my finger now. I'm just going to wash that off. More importantly, I've got the old homebrew on the go now. Yeah, it's pretty good. That's nice. That's the one of the Young's definitive lager kits. Okay, so I've got my tin. I'm going to hold this tightly, and I've got my fermenting vessel on the floor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully pour this into the fermenting vessel. So that goes in. Right, I've tipped as much as that in there and scraped it out as much as I could, sorry. But what you can see I've done here is I've actually filled it up now with the mixture, the solution of the dry malt extract and the glucose and the water. Because what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to use that to help to get some of the remaining liquid out. So I'll just scrape down around the sides a little bit more, get as much of this out as I can, because obviously this has all got to go in the brew, so you know, may as well use it for this as well. The other good thing with this is it's you know, all of this stuff is just going to get more and more air into the wort, which is good for the yeast. Basically gives it a better start, so that's all really good as well. You know, the more you sort of mess about with it at this stage, so when I say mess about, the more you sort of glug it around between things that are sterilised. That's quite hot now, so I'm going to use this. In fact, first I'm going to swig of the brew. So, cheers. So I'm going to tip this in. It goes in. In theory now, that's looking pretty clean now. I mean, there's still a bit round here, but that's got most of it out now, so I'm going to leave it at that, to be honest. Just have a little bit there. It's just looking good. So in there now I've got obviously the whole tin of the malt extract, and I've also got another tin of the solution that I've made up, all mixed together and put in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip the remaining liquid here into the fermenting vessel, and I'll need to put the camera down to do that bit because I need two hands. So, but simply that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to tip that liquid that I've had on the stove, and I'm going to put that into the fermenting vessel with the rest of it. Right, as you can see, I've tipped the remaining contents of the hot pan of water now into my fermenting vessel. So we've got the full 3.5 litres of water and the malt extract in there now. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give that a really good stir up now. So I'm going to slosh it around, slosh, really make sure I get some air into the wort. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then next stage we're going to basically top it up with water, and then we'll pitch the yeast. Okay, so I've moved the fermenting vessel now with the wort in it to the room where it's basically going to live. Another little tip, basically now you've got this much liquid in here at the moment. You know, you're able to carry it at the moment. There's some nice handles on this fermentation vessel, so you know it's nice and easy to carry it. But once you've topped it up to about here, it's going to be seriously heavy. You can carry it with these handles, but I'm not sure I trust that with 23 litres of liquid in there. You know, that's your own personal choice, but personally I think it's easier to move it and to basically top it up where it's pretty much going to stay all of the time. So I've moved all the other stuff that I need as well into this room too. There's the yeast, which we talked about. I've got all the other stuff still sat in the sterilising solution. So next thing I want to do now is start basically topping this up with cold tap water. What the cold tap water is going to do is basically dilute the solution, and also the temperature will come down significantly, so it will be at a correct temperature to actually pitch the yeast.
So I'm basically going to sweat out this jug first, so it's had the sterilising solution in it. Give that a good swirl out. The other thing here as well is to again try and get some air into the wort, which is, as I said earlier, you know, it's good for the yeast. It means that the yeast will find it a lot easier to start fermenting and start multiplying. So obviously we can get some air in there by the way we get some force out of the tap to push some air into the liquid, and then also obviously when we're tipping this in, we're tipping it in from a decent height, so we're getting that in, and you can already see that, you know, there's some good froth on there from as it's mixing. So I'm just going to carry on topping this up now all the way up to 23 litres. So I'm not going to video that because it's not going to be particularly interesting. So I'm going to do that up to 23 litres, and then we'll come back and we'll have a go with the hydrometer. Okay, so I've dropped my hydrometer into my fermenting vessel there. You probably can't see very well on the camera, but the reading that I'm getting is, and this is looking on another hydrometer that I happen to have, which I appreciate isn't very well focused. Now, the reading I'm getting is just above where my finger is there, which is about 1.044, 1.04446. So that's going to give me probably an alcohol percentage, if it ferments down to about 1005, probably of about 5.2% ish. I don't know, have to work that out properly using one of the online calculators or using a spreadsheet that I've got set up, but that's what I'm looking for. So that's all good. So I'm going to basically re-sterilise my hand now, wash that off and take the hydrometer out, and then we're ready to pitch the yeast. Right, so just chop the corner off the yeast packet. So the yeast is dry at the moment, using some sanitised scissors, which I had again in there, you probably saw. So I'm just going to tip now the contents of this pack sort of fairly evenly around. Some people like to just sprinkle this and then just leave the yeast to kind of do its own thing. I tend to, well, certainly all the brews that I've done, I've always stirred it up very lightly, just to get just a little bit more air into the wort, and really just to make sure that the yeast is fully mixed into the solution, ready to start fermenting and producing my alcohol. Okay, so that's the yeast pitched. So I'm just going to take my I suppose paddle, or it's really a fish slice, just swirl that up again. Make sure that's nice and sanitary. Okay, and I'm just going to basically, I don't know whether you can see on the camera, but you can see all the yeast at the moment is just basically sat on top of the foam. It's also concentrated in the same place. It is more difficult to sprinkle with these type of fermenting vessels because the top gap isn't particularly big. So again, that's one of the reasons why I tend to prefer the light stirring method, just to get it all mixed in. If you've got one of the other types of FVs with just a flat top that opens, I guess it's probably a bit easier to sprinkle it on top and then just let the yeast do its own thing, but this is my preferred method. Okay, so just make sure that's all nicely mixed in. It does smell absolutely fantastic, by the way, I have to say, and I can smell the yeast now as well. Okay, so that's the yeast pitched. So now we're going to basically pop the lid on it. Now your lid will possibly vary depending on the type of fermenting vessel that you've got. These ones basically have the screw top lid, and I found these really good because they seal really well. And then basically on that screw top lid you've got this rubber ring that basically fits in here. And this all basically helps to seal it off so that no baddies can get in there. So I'm basically going to first of all rinse off the lid to get all of that sanitising solution off. Got a really good rinse. As I said earlier, we don't want any of that to get in our brew because it might kill the yeast. That might just basically affect the flavour of the beer, and we don't want beer to taste like steriliser, so I'm just going to rest that on there a minute because I'm going to just rinse this O-ring off as well. Probably is going a little bit overboard this because it's probably not going to come in contact with the beer, but my bet is always to be safe rather than sorry, you know. So I tend to probably just go overboard a little bit, but it's kind of better that way really, I think. So I'm just going to push this O-ring into the gap here, as you can see. So that's basically now nestled in there, so that's going to form a really good airtight seal to stop anything getting, well, any CO2 getting out by that gap. It does say on the instructions also actually to put some Vaseline around the grooves here, the threads, but I to be honest, I don't tend to bother doing that, and I always find to get a really good seal, so it's up to you whether you want to do that, but I don't. So your choice on that one, see what works for you. Okay, so get that fairly tight. It doesn't have to be absolutely tight, and if you do it really that tight, you're going to find it difficult to get it off, because I have that problem. So I wouldn't do that. Okay, so this is the rubber bung that the airlock goes into. The way I tend to do this is I'll put the rubber bung in first and then push the airlock into the rubber bung, because what I find that does is it guarantees a better seal, because as you obviously the rubber bung's easier to get in without the centre of the airlock pushing into it, so that'll go in like that. And as you push the airlock into here, it's going to spread out slightly, so just make sure you get a good seal around these sides. So here's my airlock. This is always a problem getting the air out, the water out, so just flush a bit of water through, that should help. Just rinse this out. Okay, so that's rinsed, so I'm just going to push that fairly hard. There's still a little bit of water just left in there, which isn't really a problem, but get rid of that. Okay, so that's gone now. So I'm just going to push that fairly hard into there, and as you can see it's spreading that centre out, which is just helping to hold the bung in place. Okay, so that's good. So we just need to put some sterilised water into the actual airlock itself. Some people use sterilised water, some people don't. Some people just use tap water. Some people use vodka. I have used vodka myself, or you know, whiskey, something like that. I guess that's probably a good idea, because if it does get in your brew, it's, you know, really an issue, is it? You know, it's not going to contaminate it as such. If anything, it's probably going to make it a bit stronger, which is a really bad thing. So just push the cap on top, and there we have it. The brew in situ topped up to 23 litres, lid on, airlock on, ready to go. So I'm just going to do a quick check now just to make sure that I've got a good airtight seal. Now to do this, and again I got this tip off Crate Tube, basically all I do is I just press on the side, and as you can see I'm pressing and I'm holding on the side, you can see the air bubble goes across to the right. Hopefully you can see that fairly well on the camera. If I keep holding the side like this, the air bubble will stay in situ, and if I press hard enough it will actually bubble the gas out, which obviously you don't want to do that, but we'll just try and hold him where he is, and then I'll let go and you can see that it goes back. Now that's how you can tell that you know you've got a good seal. Also this telltale sign around here that you haven't got a good seal would be sort of bubbling going on through that water that's sat around that seal. So everything's good, it's ready to go. It'll probably be in there for about 14 days, maybe slightly quicker this one than my previous brews, because I guess I've used the dry malt extract and the glucose, which I'm told will ferment quicker, but I guess we'll see. So thanks for watching, and catch up with us in 14 days when we'll bottle the beer. Cheers.